Your newspaper reporting that there is a private equity firm with strong links to the Trump administration looking to put in an offer for the port of Darwin. What do you make of this report, and should the Albanese government get on board with it?
Look, I think it should. So Albanese has had a fantastic victory. Nobody should be churlish about it. Fantastic victory. Now, he, I think, would be very well advised to keep his promises and to move a little bit to the centre. And he promised very clearly that Darwin was not going to remain any longer in Chinese-owned hands. Now, the Chinese have been putting pressure on the Prime Minister since the election to reverse that decision. Now, this is a key test, I think, for the Albanese government of great importance. It's gone very quiet on China in the last couple of years, generally won't say boo to a goose about China. Now, if it succumbs to Chinese pressure and, makes some excuse for not going ahead and transferring the ownership of the lease of the Darwin port, that would be a terrible sign. Whereas if he goes ahead and either gets the Americans to buy it, he said he would look for a buyer. Well, here's a perfectly good buyer. The Americans can buy it. That'd be fine. So that's credibility with the Australian people. It's credibility with our national security, and it's credibility with the Chinese. It shows that we can still take a decision which the Chinese are campaigning against.
Yeah, indeed, and as the comparison's often been made, if the shoe was on the other foot, there's no way in the world a foreign entity would be afforded the right to buy such a strategic port. Now, the Albanese Prime Ministership, as you say, in the second term, he's been to Indonesia, he went to Rome for Pope Leo and the inauguration of Leo XIV. Now we turn our attention, it's not that far away, I think it's about 3 weeks away, or maybe just a little under, to the G7. The Prime Minister will visit and hold talks with the Canadian leader, but obviously the President of the United States as well, and they will be much anticipated, that set of conversations, Greg.
Absolutely. So I thought the criticism of Albanese for travelling in the first term was absurd. That's what Australian Prime Ministers have to do. The G7, you don't always get invited to the G7. We weren't invited to the G7 in Rome. We're not a member of the G7. So he's invited as the Canadian Prime Minister's personal guest. A terrific opportunity not only to confer with the Canadian Prime Minister, but with other G7 leaders, including President Trump. I hope, and I think there's a strong possibility, that the Prime Minister might tack on a visit to Washington. He's in Canada, 30 seconds away from Washington. And I think it would be very good for the whole American system's view of Australia if we had a successful visit to Washington. Of course, there's always a little bit of risk because Trump is so unpredictable. Then, you saw the Ukrainian ambassador restating his invitation to the Prime Minister to go to Ukraine, and he might go to Poland as well. I think that'd be all very good, and especially in the first 6 or 12 months of a new term, he's got real business to transact on behalf of Australia. He wants to show the world that we're still very engaged, we're still strategically part of the West, close to the Canadians, close to the Americans, in solidarity with Ukraine. I think that could be a very useful trip for the PM.
The other thing that I think you would agree has been useful has been the recalibrating of relations with the Pacific. Penny Wong, very keen to keep that front of mind for her and along with her junior minister. That was her top priority in the first weeks of the second term.
Absolutely. So all the way through, I've been an admirer of Penny Wong on her Pacific diplomacy. I disagree with her a little bit on the Middle East, but I think she gave great priority to the South Pacific right from the start. Now, in fairness, the Morrison government was pretty active in the South Pacific too. But Penny Wong has led the government in very activist diplomacy in the South Pacific, a lot of it directed at countering Chinese influence. But the Chinese are going to be extremely persistent. They want a military base in the South Pacific. They think Trump is an inattentive and episodic administration. They've got a lot of money and they're still trawling for influence all over the South Pacific. And it would be catastrophic for us if they did establish a military base in the South Pacific. Now, the Albanese government is emphasising its climate change credentials. I think its climate change policies, are a little bit baloney, but nonetheless, they're very popular in the South Pacific. It's right therefore, to emphasise those. And, Paul Keating criticised Penny Wong for spending too much time in the South Pacific. I don't think an Australian foreign minister can possibly spend too much time in the South Pacific, and that's another agenda that they should take forward this term as in last term.
Yep, indeed. There's no doubt about it, given it is our backyard. Greg Sheridan, thank you. Appreciate it.